Hi, can everybody hear me okay? Oh, perfect. Looks like everybody is muted. So yeah, just thumbs up is good. Ah, excellent. All right, well, thank you, Elaine, and thank you, everybody. Go ahead and get started. I'm gonna share my screen here. Okay, and now can everybody see that okay? Excellent. Excellent, excellent. Well, perfect. Good morning to you all and happy Veterans Day. First, I want to thank everyone here for attending my program. And I just wanted to get a feel and see if anybody has ever had any experience with the Veterans History Project before. Yeah, I see a lot of heads shaking no. Well, after today, you'll be a pro, I promise. So yeah, I figured this would be a really great topic for Veterans Day. And if anybody here is a vet, thank you so much for your service. And just encourage everybody else to thank a vet in their life, definitely a special group of people. And this project is really encouraged through the DAR service for veterans. It's on the webpage, right on the DAR members website. And so they're really kind of encouraging people to get out there, talk to vets, see if they're interested in participating in this project. It's really, really a great project that the Library of Congress has put together. So we'll go ahead and get started. Um, Also, side note, if you are tallying up your service to America hours and you do decide to do this project, every hour that you put towards it counts as that. So don't forget to enter that in. So I can share this PowerPoint at the end and I can email it to anybody. So you have all the live links. All of these link right to the VHP website, the Veterans History Project website. So just a little bit about their mission. The Veterans History Project at the Library of Congress collects, preserves, and makes accessible the firsthand recollections of U.S. military veterans who served from World War I through more recent conflicts and peacekeeping missions. The purpose of this project is that future generations may hear directly from veterans and better understand what they saw, did, and felt during their service. So the link here is to the website, and you can find everything right on there. Their website's really great, has a lot of information, but I'm going to go over a lot of it today as well. Okay, if I can get my PowerPoint to work. There we go. Oh. Now, the history is actually really interesting of how this project even got started. It was established in the year 2000 by congressional legislation and has its roots in a simple family gathering. While at a Father's Day picnic, Representative Ron Kind overheard his father and uncle swapping stories from their service in World War II and the Korean War. Realizing the fleeting nature of these reminiscences, he grabbed a video camera to record his relatives' accounts for posterity. This brief experience was the impetus for Congress to create a national grassroots oral history initiative, which would allow participants to interview vets that are in their lives and communities, with the resulting recordings archived as part of the American Folklife Center at the Library of Congress. Um, Lastly, VHP's collecting scope quickly grew to include other types of original source materials, such as letters, diaries, and photographs. In fact, in 2016, there was new legislation that expanded the scope to include oral histories from family members of the armed forces who died as a result of their service during a period of war. So those are the Gold Star families, and I'll touch on that a little bit more in a minute. So, for over 20 years, the Veterans History Project has collected, preserved, and made accessible the firsthand narratives of U.S. military veterans. So, getting involved is simple, but it does require some time and effort. I think this would be a great DAR chapter project, a capstone project for members of New Horizons courses, or even just a great thing to do with any veterans in our lives, or even the general public. If you have family members, friends who might want to interview someone else, the only requirement is that they're 15 or older. So even older high school students could do this as a project. So really a lot of potential here for some really great projects. Now, the first step is to prepare. You're going to want to conduct a pre interview. You're going to want to check your technology, make sure everything works, and then you're going to create a collection. So, very first thing to do is to talk to the veteran, contact them by phone, letter, or in person, and ask them if they'd like to participate in the project. If so, ask them to think about details about their military services that they might want to share. Even if it's not, they sometimes don't think, oh, I didn't really do anything significant, or I wasn't in like a huge battle, or I was in a peacekeeping time, so there really wasn't much. That doesn't matter. These are really great oral histories, even ones that just talk about like basic training, or they were stationed somewhere nearby home, so it wasn't really like a faraway journey or anything like that. Doesn't matter. This project is really great because they're trying to capture all facets of military life. So even something basic, or somebody just in the reserves or National Guard, or something like that, like it doesn't matter. They want as many stories as possible, and it's just a really great resource to have all of these experiences collected. So it's also a good idea to consult secondary resources, kind of like books or films or anything like that from that particular time period, or even the area that the person might have served. Anything like that is really a great resource to have, just some background knowledge for yourself. And it might also help you uh, frame some of your questions. It's moving some of my daughter's things out of the way here. Sorry. So after collecting all your information, you're going to want to write out your questions and send them to the veteran ahead of time. This way, they can best prepare or let you know of any proposed changes or topics that they want to talk about or address. Now, if you choose to do a video recording, make sure your equipment works and test it out. Some people just choose to use their smartphones or a tablet, something like that. You can also use an audio recording device. Whatever you use, just make sure it works. Maybe do some practice runs just to kind of make sure when you get there, everything goes smoothly, unlike our technology this morning. Um, Technology is technology. You can always go back and edit things or something like that. But you can also submit photographs, original photographs, correspondence, diaries, anything written by the veteran during their service, along with the interview. I have on the screen here, they do have this thing called the 30-20-10 rule. So if you do an interview and that's all you're submitting, you definitely want to make sure it's about 30 minutes long. And then if you have extra materials like photographs or anything like that, you can always send them in as well. If your vet really only wants to do a 10-minute interview, that's fine. If they have 20 pages of letters or a diary or something like that, they can submit that with just a 10-minute interview. So that's kind of a nice way to break it up. So it has to meet any of these. So you can have 10 photographs and then a 10-minute interview. Or if you don't have an interview at all, you can just submit an album of like 30 photos, something like that. They're really kind of flexible on that. It just has to meet one of those requirements in order for it to become a collection. The other part here underneath creating a collection on the screen, the VHP now accepts interviews from Gold Star family members. And that's defined by legislation as a parent, spouse, sibling, or child of members of the armed forces who died as a result of their service during a period of war. So that's something new as well. After completing the preparation process and making sure you will fulfill the submission requirements, you'll need to complete the forms in the VHP field kit, which I'll get to next. If the collection only contains written or photographic materials, all you need to do is acquire them and submit the forms from the field kit, and then you're done. However, if you're conducting an interview, keep in mind the following. Let the veteran choose the environment and the setting. They want to be somewhere comfortable. And then ask open-ended questions, so something that they can elaborate on. Yes or no's, don't really go anywhere. Practice active listening. Really allow them to lead the narrative and choose where they want it to go. Also, keep an eye on the time. It's very easy to go over. And also be mindful of topics that can trigger post traumatic stress and give the veteran time to pause, change topics, or even end the interview if they have to. Again, the questions should be submitted to them ahead of time so that they can have more chance to prepare, and it'll even kind of mentally prepare them if they do want to talk about a difficult topic. So the VHP Field Kit, there's a link here to it as well. It is a fillable PDF, but you can always print it out too. There's some documents that the vet has to fill out, and then there's some documents that you, the interviewer, have to fill out. It's really great. They made it super accessible too. They have it available in audio and braille formats, which is really great. And then there's a step-by-step process presented on the website on that link, as well as in the PDF of the field kit. They even did a how-to video, which is great. I love how-to videos. So they try to make it as easy as possible. For some people, this is like a little daunting and it kind of can deter them. It's really basic questions. And if it's something you don't know, leave it blank. It's not the end of the world. They're basically using this to create a finding aid, if you will, if you're familiar with archival research. That kind of gives them categories, dates, like everything that they're going to use to put in data for this collection so it's searchable. Another great resource that they actually have on their website are sample questions. A lot of people wonder, what on earth would they even ask of that, or should they ask of that? Well, luckily, VHP provides these really great sample questions along with the suggested topic order. So, how should this flow? It's a really great sample questions that they have here. They have ones for the general public. They have them for the Gold Star families. And then they even have sample questions for Native American veterans, which is tailored really to kind of their own unique experience serving in the US military. So those are really interesting. And again, remember to submit the questions ahead of time. You can just send them this document and say, do you like this or do you want to change something? You can always do that too. Now, next, you're going to want to send in all your materials, and it may take at least 12 months before the veteran's descriptive record actually appears on the online collections database. That record may not include digitized collection material, such as their interview, but once it's fully processed, every collection is accessible either in person, you can make an appointment at the Library of Congress to view collections, or online. It's really great how they set it up too with the collections. You can search with different filters, including the collection type. And there's also some examples here on this slide. So they do have this great access, film, video, photo, print, drawing, whatever you need to look up. This also brings up a good topic. Actually, it's on the previous slide too here. When you send in the material, make sure you make 2 copies of everything. You can hand deliver it to the Library of Congress. You can make an appointment to bring it in. But because of the types of materials that are sent in, they have these, they say to avoid damages caused by their special security screening. Not exactly sure what that means, but to not use postal service, to use FedEx, UPS, something like that. So it has something to do with the type of objects that can be sent in, the photographs, the film, the video, whatever it may be. But again, once everything's there and everything's processed, you can go onto that online database and search by all these different filters here, which is really great. Say you're just looking for videos or you're just looking for photographs or diaries, something like that. That's a really great option that they have. They also have really great curated presentations featuring some of the collections with different themes and time periods and conflicts. They have research guides and interactive story maps, which are some of my favorites. I really recommend checking them out on the website. The link is down here. And you can see, I did just like a little screenshot of the site there. And the D-Day Journeys one is really great. They actually show you like a diary or some photographs, something from their collections, and then they have it like in France, all the different places that might have been written or this is a photo of, and it's interactive and it's really cool. So I always think that's a great resource too. Now, the VHP folks are very receptive to questions and feedback, and they recommend connecting with them on social media through email. You can call them, whatever you need. They're actually very helpful, and I do provide their contact information at the on the last slide. They also host online and in-person events, and they always share about those on their social media and their website. Now, one thing they also do is just encourage everyone to spread the word, try to get as many submissions as possible. So this would, really be a great project for any of us, for sure. We know a lot of veterans, of course. So this is just an example. This is what I did. In 2011, I conducted a 30-minute interview with a close family friend of mine, Harold Williams. I think mom is online here. She can attest to what an amazing man Harold was. He actually passed away like a month before, or a couple of days before his 101st birthday. They did this big 100th party for him. It was really great. Incredible man. He was an artillery forward observer and in the U.S. Army. Now he is a D-Day veteran, and in my interview, he shares some harrowing stories about his experience in Normandy on D-Day, and about liberating a concentration camp. And he shares some of his recollections about some of the German civilians he met, and it was quite sad, but really interesting. And he has some really good perspectives and shared with me some things I never knew about before. He tells this story about this Berlin Sally, which is something I've never heard about before, and the Germans would play it so that the American soldiers could hear it. And, she would tell them that their wives are back home with other men and that their parents are dying and just all this stuff to make them homesick and kill their morale and just trying to tell them to go home. And I never heard of anything like that before. So that was interesting. But I did share this on my Facebook. So if you're friends with me on Facebook, you can watch the interview. It's also on Vimeo. So I can share that link as well. About half an hour. Of course, I did it in 2011 when I was an undergrad at New Paltz, and I look at it now and I'm like, oh, I did that wrong. I shouldn't have done this. Like, that's what we do. But his story is the important part, and it's wonderful. Now, just an idea for what people can do, and actually, I'm going to share a different photo here. I don't know if I still have. Oh no, I'll bring up a website. Um, One thing you can do with these collections is other projects. So again, college students, high school students, I know we work a lot with high schoolers with the Good Citizens Award and everything that DAR presents. But just even us, like something fun to do. I don't know if anybody here is like really into podcasting or anything like that. But this is something I did as a graduate student down in Nashville, Tennessee, and it was really cool. I worked at the Albert Gore Senior Research Center on campus, and one of my projects there was to search our archival collections of veterans' oral histories and create these podcasts. So I'd search the database for interviews that had segments with a short but powerful story. The goal was to create a podcast for about 10 minutes or so, and then you provide a little bit of background and narration before and after the interview segment. So after finding the interview and saving that as a MP3 file, you want to read the transcript and everything too, just to make sure you fully understand what was said. Then you write your own podcast script. So for mine, I actually chose to interview Rose Witherspoon Spence. And somebody actually was just telling me before the meeting, because I mentioned something about her, that they just saw something on Create or PBS or something about her. She just passed away in September. It was her 100th birthday, and she passed away a couple months after. And she did an interview and she showed her photograph there. She was one of the first African American women in the US military during World War II. So her experience was fascinating. That was just a really cool interview to listen to. Um, and I thought she was amazing. So she studied history, probably why I like her so much, at Tennessee State University. And she volunteered for the Women's Army Corps. The clip I focused on from her interview was about wartime racial and gender legislation and how it spurred post war civil rights activism and feminism. I wrote a brief introduction to her and her subject, and then I closed it with a couple summarizing points. Once my script was complete, I recorded uh, my script with a Zoom H2N recorder microphone, and then I imported that as an MP3 file. After that, I edited the recording and her interview MP3 file using an open source software called Audacity, and that just means it was free. So that's how I created the podcast. I combined my edited script with the interview segments. There's a lot more to that. It's kind of technical, but if you want to talk about podcasts after, let me know. Once I finished, I uploaded the podcast with Rose's photograph, which is right up here. This is from her World War II service. And I uploaded that to soundcloud.com to host the podcast. And then I wrote a brief abstract about it and shared it on our center's website and all our social media. The one thing I want to show here, I should have had this up, sorry. Yeah, I think it's on create images. Yeah. So here it is. So this is her when she was doing this interview. It's amazing. And there's a much better picture of that, of the one I had on my podcast there. But she's an incredible woman, and I really enjoyed doing that presentation. So we did all these. There was other grad students that did these too, and we really enjoyed making these podcasts. And I actually created a poster with the instructions and some little brief abstracts about everything we did. And I actually went to Long Beach, California in 2016 to present at the Oral History Association annual conference. So I did a poster presentation there. So that's me at the bottom at the conference. And that was just a lot of fun. Here's a close up of my poster. So yeah, that was a really great experience. And it's just, it was really, really helpful to go there and see everybody and get to share about our experience. So again, this is more something for students to do, or somebody interested in taking these primary sources and expanding on it and making another project. It's definitely a lot of work. But this is just to illustrate one more possibility of how these great oral histories can just grow and develop into bigger projects and more outreach to get their stories out there and reach a bigger audience. So as promised, here is the VHP contact information. And I also added my phone number there at the bottom. So if you have any questions, or you decide, hey, there's somebody I really want to do this with, but I kind of need some help along the way. Maybe technology isn't your favorite thing. Definitely let me know. I'd be happy to help. And feel free to reach out if you have any questions. You can always ask them. The link here does go to their chat service, and then their emails there as well with their phone numbers. So again, really great project. You don't have to make podcasts or do anything like that. It's just that's just something that I did as a grad student, and I would like to share that because it was really fun and really meaningful for me. And as the Service for Veterans chair, I'm always looking for projects to do and things that we can do to help serve our veterans. I'm also the deputy VAVS representative down at Castle Point, and I like to do different things with them as well. So I'm going to actually submit this recording down to them because, that's the VA, and a lot of people are looking to do stuff with the VA, different volunteers and everything. So this would be a really great project. So if anybody has any questions, I think we're kind of short on time here. I know that technology stuff took up half the beginning of the meeting, but yeah, feel free to message me. You can send me a Facebook message. You can send me an email. You can call me, text me, whatever. And hopefully, you guys think of a vet you might want to interview or do a project with. And thank you all so much for having me, and happy Veterans Day.